Right, let's have a look at a couple of houses. The specific principle here is that they're the same general volume, just that each of them is set in a different context. So we got like a mountain house. So this house is supposed to be in the mountain area. I'll just go through the general principles behind. The second one needs to be in the city, something like that. So it's constrained by pre-existing buildings, so to speak. Then you've got like a summer beach house, which is set into a beach environment. And then we got like a freestanding house, one that is set in basically like a free plot of land somewhere near a forest or whatever. So it's not constrained by other elements. Let me just go for the first principle, the first element of this conversation on architecture. These houses are ground floor and 3 stories high. And this intersection of prisms is kind of the baseline off of which we will be starting the conversation. Okay, right. And obviously these 2 volumes, this volumetric composition needs to adapt to all 3 contexts. So for the mountain area, obviously we need materials that are relating to the environment. So, stone facades and wooden facades and like a sloped roof, which obviously affects the volumes. Next up, for the city approach to this house, we need to have, obviously, there's a limited plot of land. On one, edge of the composition, we need to have direct contact with the house. It needs to be near a different building. Okay, so connected. It has like a common wall. So this wall here, right, this bit here, is common with the building next to it. Okay, for the beach house, you need to have something that's fairly open. So you just look through it. It's like transparent. Doesn't really look like a house. It's like more of a pavilion. Okay, it's dematerialized, you could say. And then for the freestanding house, obviously you can do whatever you want. It's freestanding. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples. You know now the basics of what we're looking at. We need to look at how these have been done specifically. So for the mountain area, the first thing is slopes. So number 1, slopes. Number 2, material specific. And number 3, the entourage around it. Let's look at the city. Oh, this got a huge perspective mistake. One moment. Complicated. It's difficult because most students are used to smaller houses. These are actually quite large. Kind of expensive. Yeah, you got like a little person here. You could go for something more like this. For the city, as I said before, number 1, you need to have a common wall. Number 2, you need to have some sort of property line here. Property line plus gate. Now that's an unconvincing G. It's a gate, right? So it needs to have something that marks the entrance over here. The property line, okay? Number 3, again, context. You could have urban lighting, details for this building on the right, which could be like the foreground, the background here, like different buildings. Okay, it makes sense because it's in the city. It needs to look like this. For number 3, so it needs to be fairly open. Open. You look through it. So it doesn't compete with the sea. You'd argue that the mountain could be as well, but imagine like a mountain house needs to hold up to more severe thermal and, rain and stuff constraints, okay, compared to like one that's by the seaside, which has got like fairly more gentle weather. Number 2, I recommend features more of a circuit around it. What do I mean by this? It should have like some stairs on this side, which don't compete, by the way, with the entrance, but they show that, you can move around the house. Okay, it's more flexible, you could say. And number 3, the entourage. Obviously, I'd go for like decking around it, deck chairs, okay, stuff like that. Let's see for the freestanding house. Obviously, it could be whatever you want, just basic principles. What were those? Marking the entrance, which is, we're kind of lacking in that department right now. You need a canopy or balcony here. 3 materials, obviously, the pages material, white color in this case, because the page is white, a textured material, and glass, okay? And number 3, make everything look like a volumetric intersection, which actually it does. It looks like a sculpture. Number 2, I don't know if you need to deviate in this case. You could stick to basically what you already have, so to speak. So you could use the principles and that's it. You could go and, this kind of looks like a house. You could throw in like a triangular cantilever here or something crazy. I can go for that if you want, but it's not necessary. You know, this is out of the three, this is the easiest by far, because it's just principles. Have constraints, although in architecture constraints are very good. You'll notice that. So number 3, we just need to have basically entourage. I recommend the classical alleyway, like a foreground, trees and shrubs behind the house. So you got like a foreground, a midground, and an end ground. Or we can call it a background, okay? So all these 3 create like textbook context for your building. Right, let's look at a couple of examples. So you see, these are more or less the same approach. These are done, basically, the way this exercise works is it's really difficult for you to follow along and do all of this and to keep it expressive. The thinking is difficult. Imagine the graphics and, you know, obviously being able to put in the effort. So if this is the baseline of what we're dealing with here, I just recommend you literally copy my approach. You do that first, and then we can discuss extreme creativity, but maybe in a different context. Okay, we can zoom in on each of these houses and like take them to the next level. Okay, so if you like this stuff, I've got like a free course you can join. It's absolutely free. You'll get 5 different lessons by email, and you can send work over for review if you want. So I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Draw nicely.